Good morning, everybody. I'm Tammy Watson. I'm the Braille specialist from Pioneer School. I don't stand in front of you today just as a Braille specialist and an educator at Pioneer School, but also as a visually impaired person who also had a journey with learning Braille. I was a low vision learner in a mainstream school until grade 4. Then I suddenly lost my sight during the middle of my grade 4 year, and I had to start attending Pioneer School. At Pioneer School, I was given the gift of learning Braille and that becoming my medium, which opened doors to me to be able to get a grade 12 education and move on to university. And I stand here in front of you today with a master's degree because I was literate. I was given a medium so that I could participate in the system with education. So today, I want to introduce you to the world of Braille and the importance that Braille plays in your child's life. I would like you to please put on your blindfold and listen to my presentation by only listening, so that you enter the world that your child engages with every day by only relying on the information that they receive by listening. So the ability to read begins at birth. This involves developing basic cognitive concepts and skills, language, spelling, motor skills, but a learner that reads Braille needs to develop additional skills, which is tactile discrimination and fine motor skills. For those of you that do not know anything about Braille, it is a tactile reading system, which means you read it by touch. It consists out of 6 dots, like this egg carton, or those of you which obviously cannot see now, it looks like a 6 on a dice. So in other words, there's 2 columns with 3 dots on each side. 2 at the bottom, 2 in the middle, and 2 at the top. Now with those 6 dots, we form various combinations. Now by using those combinations, we form letters, numbers, punctuation signs, music notes, sign symbols, anything that you as a sighted person can do with a pen or on a computer, we can do with 6 dots. Braille not only allows learners to develop language skills like reading and writing and spelling and grammar, but it also allows learners to see the way in which text is formatted on a page. For example, what a poem looks like, what a diagram looks like, a column, a chart, a table. So anything that you can produce in print, we are able to produce in Braille. Braille consists out of 2 grades. Now that doesn't mean grade 1 and grade 2, which I'll refer to now as in academic grade 1 and grade 2. We just refer to grade 1, which we call uncontracted Braille, and grade 2 as contracted Braille to distinguish the difference between the 2. Uncontracted or grade 1 Braille is how you would write in sighted. That means we only use the alphabet, numbers, math symbols, and punctuation signs. So if you were to write a word, for example, like the word the, you would write it out THE like you do in sighted. Grade 2 or contracted Braille is a very unique system which only exists in Braille. This means we have symbols or combination of symbols or even a combination of letters which represent commonly used words or commonly grouped letters which are grouped together. For example, I used the example of the word the a minute ago. In Braille, we have 1 symbol which represents the word the. We are also then able to use that symbol in a word where the letters THE occur. For example, the word other. There are also symbols, for example, as I mentioned, just for groups of letters. For example, the grouping of ING. Now, Braille is the medium, as I said, through which visually impaired learners learn to read and write. Now, at Pioneer School, we are a mainstream school where we follow the CAPS curriculum, except we have 2 additional fields, Braille and orientation and mobility. So the foundation of Braille starts in grade R, where our focus is on what we call pre-Braille skills. There are three main areas of pre-Braille skills on which we focus in grade R. The first is tactile discrimination. This is the ability to gently touch an object and be able to discriminate between various textures, sizes, even if you have the object that might look the same or be the same shape, but now you can feel there's slight differences. So often you can do activities, for example, sorting buttons, but they might be different sizes, sorting beads, which might be different shapes, for example, squares and circles and triangles. The second skill we focus on is developing hand strength and finger dexterity. This is the purposeful movement of one finger at a time or a combination of fingers. This becomes very important when you learn to write Braille on a Perkins Braille machine. The third thing is practicing positional concepts like top, bottom, middle, left and right. This becomes very important, as I mentioned, the 6 dots we have on the Braille cell, because your Braille machine also has a left and right. But not only are these concepts important for Braille, but they also become vital in orientation and mobility. In grade R, we introduce the Braille cell not in terms of letters or the dots, which I will inform you on later what they represent, but we refer to the egg carton, those of you who can see me, as in top left, my left, no, your left, and bottom right or middle left. So then the learners will take the ping pong balls out of the egg carton and put them in where the teacher indicates. So those positional concepts become very, very important. If we refer now to reading and writing of Braille, there's two major differences here. The first one is the sensory difference, because they are based on two different sensory systems. Your reading is tactile motoric in nature, as you read with the tactile receptors in your index finger. Now those of you can see me, I'm pointing to the pad of my index finger. That is the part that you read with, so that you are able to fit the entire letter or symbol underneath your finger. You do not read with the tip like that, because you are then unable to see the entire letter, and often this can lead to great confusion if the learner does read like that, or sometimes the learner moves their finger up and down and then they also miss part of the letter. So reading occurs with using your two index fingers next to each other. They move together lightly from left to right. The left hand goes back to the left hand margin and moves down and writes at the next line, while the right hand continues reading the line. The next thing where they differ in terms of the sensory aspects, writing is proprioceptive and motoric in nature, as this relies on the movement of the fingers either individually or in various combinations to press the buttons of your Braille machine to form those different letters on a paper. The second way in which it differs is with regards to the layout of Braille, because your reading layout and your writing layout is very different. Your writing layout, for example, the dots are arranged in a line, so they're horizontal in a 1x6 dot arrangement. So they are arranged in a line from left to right. The reading occurs in the two columns, like the 6 dots I showed you just now. So it's columns where it is 2x3. So when the learners learn to read and write, to integrate these differences, we start with symmetrical letters, then we start with asymmetrical letters, letters that are unique to letters that could be mirror images or inverted letters from each other, and also letters that use fewer dots to those letters that might use more dots. Now I'm going to explain to you how we proceed through the Braille curriculum at Pioneer School from grade 1 to grade 3. You may remove your blindfolds. So, I mentioned this egg carton earlier. So this is something very practical you can use at home to practice those positional concepts. You don't have to use ping pong balls. You can use something like lids of a milk carton you can use buttons, you can even use stones, whatever you can find to put in an egg carton like this. So in grade R, as I mentioned, we start off with this to teach them the concepts top, middle, left, right. And then in grade 1, we move back to the egg carton. But now we start associating this with the dot of the Braille cell. So this on the left hand side becomes dot 1, dot 2, dot 3. And the right hand side is 4, 5, and 6. Now we start telling the learner, put the ball in dot 1 and dot 5. And then we start telling them that these are letters. So for example, your dot 1, which is your top left, we start associating with the letter A. Dot 1 and 2, which is left top and left middle, will become a B. Dot 1 and dot 4, which is top left and top right, becomes a C. Once the learners are comfortable with that, we move over to this, which is known as a braillet. If you can see, it also has the 6 dot combination in holes. Then we can pack the letter by using tiny metal pins. So you will see there is a top left, middle left for the first one, and that one has got the top left and right, and the middle left and right. So then the learners learn how to pack the letters on the braillet as well. When we introduce writing, now remember I told you earlier that it becomes a horizontal action. So here we've got a wooden block, which we use for the grade 1s. Yet again, it also has the 6 holes like a Braille cell. So if I put it down, and I'm going to write the letter D, which is dot 1, top left, dot 4, top right, that one's too big, and dot 5, middle right. Now you'll see there the dots are as you'd read it. Now to write it, you flip it open, and this will correspond with the buttons on your Braille machine, which I'll show you later, which then becomes the dots that the letter represents. Like I said, that's the dot 1, your dot 4, your dot 5, and then this will correspond with the buttons on the Braille machine. So in grade 1, that is how we'll teach them to read and write, by using those tools, and then the Braille machine as well, which I'll show you just now. In grade 2, we start with the contractions in their home language up to a certain level. In grade 3, we continue with learning contractions of their home language by adding 2 more levels of contractions. In grade 4, I see the learners between 3 and 5 periods per week for Braille classes, where I continue teaching them the contractions of their home language, but not only to read them, but also to write them and the rules that correspond with those contractions, because there's also rules in how you may use them, where you may use them, and so on. I also start then in grade 4 by teaching them contractions of their additional language. So at our school, we only focus on English and Afrikaans Braille, and by the time the learner reaches the end of grade 5, they have learned all the contractions of their home language, and by the end of grade 6, all the contractions of their additional language. So now I'm going to start doing the different activities with you guys. So you'll have okay. So now each of you have a container in front of you. If you feel inside your container, there will be a shoelace or a thread and 5 beads of a specific shape. Now I want you to do the activity with your blindfold on, and you are now going to thread those beads onto the thread or the string that you have. This activity will show you how to do activities which are related to the tactile discrimination, which I mentioned earlier. So we're combining the fine motor skills of feeling the bead and feeling where the tip of the string is, but you also have to feel where the hole of the bead is. So you're discriminating between where's the opening on the bead and where the bead is solid. So now I would like you to please thread those beads onto your string for the first activity. So the second activity we're going to do is, you're going to take those beads off your thread. And then you've got another container with other beads in, which are different shapes. So now I want you to take those beads and throw them into your big container. So this is going to take our tactile discrimination to the next level now. Now you're going to have 3 shapes in your container. You're going to have 5 circles, 3 squares, and 2 triangle shaped beads. Now you're going to focus, because you are now going to have to thread the following pattern: circle, square, circle, triangle, circle, square, circle, triangle, circle, square. So now you see how you have to rely on only your sense of touch to be able to feel the difference in shape. So now you don't just have to feel where the whole of the bead is, but you also have to feel, does this bead have 4 sides or 3 sides, in order to figure out if it's a square or a triangle. Okay, now we're going to do activity 3. Now we're taking it up even another level. So now in front of you, you're going to have 2 empty containers and a container with items in it. If you feel in your container, it's going to feel like a lot of little granules or things. It might be difficult for you to discriminate or to feel what it is. What it is you've got raw rice grains and unpopped popcorn. So now what you're going to do is, you've got your 2 empty containers and you have to sort the rice grains from the popcorn. So in your one empty container, you need to put the popcorn pips, and in the other container, your rice grains. So this is taking up the tactile discrimination to a whole other level. But the idea with these activities is to show you that you don't need to buy expensive devices or expensive gadgets to develop these skills at home. You can use anything that you can find at home. You can use buttons to sort out big buttons and small buttons. You can have, let's say, buttons and stones. Some people even use keys, different shapes of keys. So anything that can be sorted. Some parents even, you can ask your children to sort out your washing, for example. If you give them the whole basket of washing and you tell them they need to put the socks on a pile, or find their clothes in the basket and put that onto a pile. So all these kinds of activities you can do at home. Another activity which also helps is, if you have a shirt with buttons, you can give the child the shirt with buttons and ask him to button all the buttons and then unbutton all the buttons. So then it also practices that fine motor skills of pushing the button through the buttonhole. Okay, now we're going to do the final activity. This is also going to focus on fine motor skills and that hand and finger strength that I mentioned earlier. So in front of you, you'll have a tray and a ball of clay. So now, being blindfolded, I'm going to ask you to make a man out of the clay in front of you. This is, as I mentioned, activities to develop the finger strength and fine motor skills. Other activities which one can also do to develop hand and finger strength is the opening and closing of jars, that twisting action of opening and closing a lid, or cool drink bottles. Any activity that gets the fingers moving independently. What also works nicely, you can also use washing pegs, where you open and close the washing peg. You can even get your child to put the pegs on the line and take it off the line. So that exercises the muscles in, let's say, the index finger and the thumb again, in order to pinch, I want to say, the peg closed, and then pinch it again to open it to take it off the line. So I want you guys to please make your man out of clay. It's up to you how you want to make your man, if you want to make it in 2D or 3D, and then we'll reveal your man soon. So now I want you to remove your blindfold and look at the man that you've made in front of you. This gives you an idea not only of the activities to develop your finger strength, but it also practices those skills that I mentioned earlier on your positional concepts, like top, bottom. Are your arms on the side of the man? Is your head at the top of the man? And this also helps the learners with their spatial awareness and their awareness of where their limbs are with regard to their own body. As you see, the activities which we've done today is all things that you can do at home. It doesn't have to be expensive, and I hope you found this presentation informative.
Good morning, Blessing. I want you to tell the parents, when did you come to Pioneer School? How old were you?
So when I joined Pioneer School, that was in 2023, I was 13 years old at the time, if I'm correct. I was turning 14 that year.
All right. And before you came to Pioneer School, how did you read and write?
So before I came to Pioneer School, I did my work in sighted. So I would read normal font, and normally the school I attended previously would print the letters bigger for me so that I can read. And then when I write, I would write like any other normal person with a book and a pen.
Okay. Why was that? Do you think you would have been able to continue like that? You're now in grade?
I am now in grade 10.
So do you think it would have helped you to continue doing it in that way?
No, because I was already struggling by the time I got to grade 7. So if I continued, I don't think I would have been this far, or I don't think I would have reached grade 10, because if I look at the marks I get now on my report and the marks I got back then, they were different because of the medium which I changed in 2023. If I continued doing my work in normal font and text, I would have struggled. I wouldn't have been able to study, and I wouldn't have been able to read and write.
So it took you a year to learn Braille, and I know you were very motivated to get going. You are one of the few learners that could do Braille and continue with your studies. So it was a difficult year, but now you are Braille literate. Tell me, how do you feel about Braille?
I feel Braille is a more easier learning medium for me because I can do my work faster, I can read faster, and I believe, I don't know if it's true, that a blind learner, when they are writing Braille, they can write twice as fast compared to a normal person.
Okay, so that one I don't know. I'll have to go look up the research, but you plan to go and study after matric, no?
Yes.
Do you know what you want to do?
I want to do actuarial science, and if that doesn't work out, then I would look into the education section, becoming a teacher.
Okay. And you know that, and then Braille will make it possible for you to go to university.
Yes, I am aware that Braille is possible.
Okay, apart from your schoolwork, do you use the Braille in any other way, or not really, just for schoolwork at the moment?
No, I actually use the Braille for other stuff. For instance, I Braille Uno cards and normal playing cards, and the school normally takes part in the first Thursday every month, so I sell those Braille cards to people, and it actually makes a profit. So that's another use of Braille in my life.
So Tammy, the children here, now they can read Braille. Do you guys also see how many words a child can read? Do you also see is work or reading speed? Is that does it come into play when you do Braille?
It does. So if I could use the example of when I have a child, let's say it's a child that's come from medium transition, if I could use that as an example, I have to get that child up to standard where he needs to be for his grade. So I teach him everything he needs in Braille. He must be able to read. If he's a grade 8 child, he has to be able to read his grade 8 textbooks at his grade 8 speed, just like his classmates. So in my Braille class, I also assess fluency, like how quick they read, do they read fluently. So our other kids who come into the school with a vision impairment, being blind from grade 1, they are able to read the exact same books as a grade 1 in a sighted school. So we follow the exact same curriculum, you do the same things in the same grade, so we don't have a a delay in what our learners are able to read. So they are exactly on par with what a child in their grade would be in a sighted school.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, a child in grade 3 reading Braille would be, his ability would be exactly the same as a mainstream child in grade 3 doing
Yes,
sighted.
that is correct. And they even use the same readers. So everything is exactly the same because the curriculum we follow is exactly the same. So therefore our children should be able to do the exact same.
Thank you.